As I sit here, gazing at the sturdy walls of my garage, the one I built with my own hands over the course of 30 grueling years, I can't help but reflect on the odyssey that brought me to this point. It all began with a dream, a vision of a sanctuary where my passion for cars and craftsmanship could flourish. But the path to creating this haven was far from straightforward. I started with nothing but a scrap of land and an unyielding determination, facing countless hurdles that seemed insurmountable at the time. The foundation was laid in sweltering summer heat and biting winter chill, each day blending into the next as I toiled tirelessly. My hands bore the scars of countless blisters, and my spirit was tested by setbacks that threatened to crush my resolve. Yet each challenge I faced only fueled my determination to see this project through. I remember the day when a severe storm tore through, threatening to undo all my hard work, leaving me staring at a pile of wreckage. But it was in those darkest moments that my resilience shone brightest. I rebuilt, every nail and beam echoing my refusal to give up. With every inch of progress, the garage began to take shape, becoming a testament to years of unrelenting effort and sacrifice. Now, as I stand amidst the fruits of my labor, I realize that this garage is more than just a structure. It's a symbol of perseverance and a reminder of how far I've come. Yet, behind every beam and every corner, there lies an untold story of struggle and triumph, a journey that has forever shaped who I am. It was at the auto show, surrounded by the gleaming chrome and the roar of engines, that I first laid eyes on Jenny. Among the sea of faces, she stood out like a beacon, her eyes sparkling with the same fervor I felt for cars. We struck up a conversation, and within minutes, it was as if we had known each other for a lifetime. Jenny was more than just captivating. She was passionate and fiercely independent, her voice tinged with the excitement of someone who loved life deeply. As we spoke, she revealed her struggles with university fees, a burden that weighed heavily on her, casting a shadow over her bright future. I admired her tenacity and was moved by her dedication, and it wasn't long before our connection blossomed into something beautiful. We spent countless hours talking about our dreams, ambitions, and shared interests, building a bond that felt unbreakable. The more I got to know her, the more I realized how much I wanted to be a part of her life. It wasn't long before I was on one knee, proposing to the woman who had captivated my heart from the moment we met. Her eyes welled with tears of joy as she accepted, and together we began to weave our lives into one. Moving in together marked the start of a new chapter, one filled with the promise of shared dreams and a future built on love and mutual support. The journey from that auto show to our first home was a whirlwind of excitement and tenderness, a testament to a love that had grown from a chance encounter into a lifetime commitment. Life with Jenny was a beautiful tapestry woven from countless shared moments, each thread contributing to a rich and fulfilling story. After our whirlwind romance and heartfelt proposal, we embarked on the journey of marriage with a blend of excitement and anticipation. Our wedding day was a celebration of not just our union, but the beginning of a new chapter filled with dreams and possibilities. Settling into our new home, we began building a life together that was as comforting as it was exhilarating. The early days of marriage were marked by a deepening bond, as we navigated the challenges and joys of creating a shared space. Every corner of our home became a reflection of our love, from the cozy kitchen where we cooked together to the living room where we spent countless evenings talking and dreaming about the future. The arrival of our first child was a momentous occasion, one that transformed our lives in ways we had only imagined. Holding our baby for the first time was an indescribable joy, a profound shift in our world. As our family grew, so did our sense of purpose and fulfillment. Jenny and I embraced the roles of parents with dedication and love, working together to provide a nurturing and supportive environment for our children. The laughter and chaos that filled our home were a testament to the vibrant life we had created. Watching our children grow up was a journey of its own, filled with milestones and cherished memories. From first steps to school achievements, each moment was a celebration of their unique personalities and talents. Our home was a hub of activity, where childhood dreams were nurtured and where we shared in the triumphs and trials of raising a family. As the years went by, our children pursued their own paths, venturing into their own careers, forging relationships, and exploring their passions. Each step they took was a reflection of the love and guidance we had provided, and their achievements filled us with pride and joy. Despite the inevitable challenges and changes that came with time, Jenny and I found a profound sense of contentment in our lives together. The foundation we had built, through love, hard work, and shared experiences, provided a strong and enduring bond. Our home, once a canvas for our dreams, had become a sanctuary of memories and milestones. As we watched our children carve out their own futures, we felt a deep sense of accomplishment and fulfillment, knowing that we had created a life rich with love, resilience, and joy. After 20 years of marriage, I found myself grappling with changes in Jenny that were as startling as they were painful. The years had woven a complex tapestry of shared experiences and challenges, but nothing could have prepared me for the seismic shift that began to unravel our life together. It started subtly, a distance in her eyes, a reluctance to engage in the familiar rhythms of our daily life. At first, I chalked it up to the inevitable wear of time and routine, but the signs grew increasingly impossible to ignore. The breaking point came when I discovered the truth about Jenny's infidelity, an affair with her new boss that shattered the foundation of trust we had built over decades. The revelation was like a gut punch, leaving me reeling and unable to process the magnitude of the betrayal. I confronted Jenny, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. The confrontation was intense, a raw and painful exchange where emotions spilled over like a dam breaking. Jenny's attempts to justify her actions only deepened the wound, her explanations feeling like a feeble attempt to mask the reality of her choices. The sense of betrayal was compounded by the realization that someone else had come to occupy a place in her heart that I had once held so dearly. Faced with the stark reality of her infidelity, I issued ultimatums, clear boundaries, and demands for honesty. I needed to understand why this had happened, and more importantly, whether there was a path forward or if the damage was irreparable. The ensuing days were fraught with tension as we navigated the fallout of her betrayal. Each conversation felt like walking on eggshells, an attempt to piece together the fragments of a shattered trust. The strain on our relationship was palpable, a chasm that seemed to widen with every passing moment. The process of confronting and addressing the infidelity was a grueling ordeal, one that tested the very core of our relationship. I found myself reflecting on the changes in Jenny, trying to reconcile the woman I had loved for 2 decades with the person who had made choices that seemed so out of character. It became clear that the infidelity was not just a betrayal of trust, but a reflection of deeper issues, dissonance between the life we had built and the desires that had led her astray. In the midst of the turmoil, I had to come to terms with the reality of our situation. The marriage I had envisioned, filled with shared dreams and unwavering support, had been marred by a betrayal that left me questioning everything. As we faced the harsh truth of our circumstances, it became evident that the path forward would be fraught with difficult decisions and heart-wrenching reflections. The journey from confronting infidelity to determining the future of our marriage was a test of resilience, trust, and the enduring strength of the bond we had once cherished. The confrontation came like a storm breaking over a once calm sea, a moment charged with raw emotion and a piercing clarity. I had uncovered the affair, and with it the painful truth that Jenny had sought solace, and perhaps something more, in the arms of her new boss. The anger and betrayal roiled within me as I faced her, the walls of our home seeming to close in on us, amplifying the gravity of the situation. We sat in the living room, the air thick with tension. Jenny's demeanor was a mix of defiance and resignation, her eyes avoiding mine as if she couldn't bear the weight of the truth. The conversation started with a quiet, almost desperate tone as I sought answers. I needed to understand why she had strayed, what had driven her to make choices that seemed so incongruent with the life we had built together. Jenny's responses were a jumble of half-hearted explanations and vague justifications. She spoke of feeling unfulfilled, of a longing for a different kind of connection, one that she claimed she had found outside our marriage. Her words felt like daggers, each one cutting deeper into the fabric of our relationship. As the conversation turned, so did Jenny's demeanor. Her words grew sharper, and her threats became more explicit. She spoke of divorce with a chilling finality, her tone leaving no room for misunderstanding. It became clear that she was ready to take drastic measures, and her threats were not merely idle talk. She hinted at legal action, vowing to fight for everything she could claim in the divorce: assets, property, and perhaps even more. The idea of her using the legal system as a weapon to strip me of everything we had worked for together was both terrifying and infuriating. The threat of losing not just Jenny, but also the material aspects of our life together, cast a long shadow over the confrontation. I felt the weight of her demands, the realization that she was prepared to take a scorched-earth approach to our separation. Each threat, each demand was a reminder of how far we had fallen from the partnership we once cherished. The conversation became a battlefield, where the stakes were not just the emotional and legal fallout, but the very essence of the life we had built together. In the heat of the moment, I had to grapple with my own feelings of helplessness and anger. The prospect of a bitter, drawn-out legal battle was daunting, and the emotional cost was immeasurable. The confrontation, once a search for understanding, had morphed into a struggle for survival, both emotionally and financially. The finality of Jenny's threats left me with a stark choice: to either capitulate to her demands or to stand firm and fight for what I believed was right. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, marked by the painful decisions and difficult choices that lay in the wake of our shattered marriage. In the midst of the storm Jenny had unleashed with her threats and ultimatums, I found a core of unshakable resolve within myself. The confrontation had laid bare not just the fractures in our relationship, but also the stark reality of Jenny's demands. Her threats of divorce and legal action aimed at taking everything I had worked for were a challenge that tested my very sense of self. I refused to let the situation spiral into a passive acceptance of her conditions. Every threat she made, every ultimatum she issued, was met with a firm and unyielding stance from me. I knew that giving in to her demands would not only undermine my own worth, but also betray the integrity of the commitment I had upheld throughout our marriage. My response was not fueled by anger alone, but by a deep-seated conviction that I deserved respect and fairness. Jenny's attempts to coerce me into accepting a settlement that would leave me vulnerable and disrespected were met with clear, unwavering opposition. I made it clear that I would not be manipulated or intimidated into conceding to terms that were unjust. My determination to stand my ground became a powerful statement of self-respect and refusal to be diminished by the betrayal that had shattered our marriage. I engaged with Jenny with a calm but resolute demeanor, making it clear that I would seek legal counsel to protect my rights and interests. The prospect of a protracted legal battle was daunting, but I was prepared to face it head-on. I consulted with a lawyer, ensuring that my position was fortified by legal expertise and sound advice. This wasn't just about defending my assets. It was about asserting my dignity and holding firm to the principles of fairness and respect that had been the cornerstone of our life together. Throughout the process, I maintained a sense of composure and clarity, refusing to let emotions cloud my judgment. My assertiveness was not an act of vengeance, but a stand for what I believed was right. I communicated clearly with Jenny, outlining my stance and the boundaries I was unwilling to cross. This was a pivotal moment, not just for the immediate resolution of our conflict, but for reclaiming my own sense of self-worth and autonomy. In the end, my refusal to be coerced into an unfair resolution was a testament to my resolve and integrity. It was a painful journey, fraught with challenges and heartache, but standing firm against Jenny's threats was a necessary step in asserting my own value and ensuring that the dissolution of our marriage would be marked by fairness and respect, rather than submission and compromise. The decision to confront John, Jenny's lover, was not one I took lightly. It was a choice driven by a need to reclaim my sense of control and assert my dignity in the midst of the turmoil that had engulfed my life. My garage, a symbol of my hard work and personal pride, became the stage for this dramatic confrontation. The very space where I had poured my sweat and blood over 30 years now served as the backdrop for an intense clash of wills. John had been a constant, shadowy presence in our lives, and the knowledge of his role in tearing apart my marriage was a bitter pill to swallow. I needed to face him, to assert not just my anger, but my position as the person who had been wronged. I had made arrangements to meet him at the garage, a place where I felt most grounded. where my strength and resolve had been forged. The day of the confrontation was a steely, overcast afternoon. The clouds hung low, mirroring the heaviness in my chest. As John's car pulled up, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I stood at the entrance of the garage, the space around me filled with the tools and machinery that represented years of relentless effort. My stance was firm, my expression set in a mask of determination. John stepped out of his car, his casual demeanor not matching the gravity of what was about to unfold. He approached with a self-assured stride, as if he were walking into a routine meeting. I could see a flicker of surprise in his eyes when he took in my stance and the atmosphere of the garage. He hadn't expected this confrontation to take place here, in the very heart of the life he had intruded upon. "John," I began, my voice steady, but carrying the weight of years of betrayal and frustration. "We need to talk." His eyes narrowed, but he maintained an air of confidence. "Dave, this isn't necessary. We both know why you're here." I took a step closer, the echo of my boots on the concrete floor amplifying the tension. "You're right. I'm here to set things straight. You've crossed a line that can't be ignored." John's smirk faltered as I closed the distance between us. The garage, with its cold, metallic undertones, seemed to pulse with a latent energy, mirroring the intensity of our confrontation. I could see him grappling with my presence, the realization dawning that this was not going to be a simple exchange of words. "I've worked hard for everything I have," I continued, my voice rising with conviction. "This garage, this life, it's all been built on trust and dedication. You've shattered that trust, and now you're going to hear me out." John's posture stiffened, a hint of defensiveness creeping into his expression. "I didn't mean for things to get out of hand. Jenny made her choices," I interrupted, cutting him off. "This isn't about her anymore. It's about you understanding the damage you've caused and the line you've crossed." There was a palpable tension in the air, and I could sense John's growing unease. I wanted him to understand that this wasn't just about protecting my marriage. It was about reclaiming my self-respect and asserting my dominance in a situation where I had been made to feel powerless. John tried to sidestep, clearly uncomfortable under the weight of my assertiveness. "Look, Dave, I didn't come here to fight. I stepped even closer, the physical proximity a clear statement of my refusal to be intimidated. This isn't about fighting. It's about setting boundaries. You need to stay away from Jenny and from my life. I won't tolerate any more interference. If you don't, you'll have to deal with me, and I promise you, that's not a position you want to be in." The message was clear. I was standing my ground, not just as a husband, but as a man who refused to be pushed around. John seemed to grasp the seriousness of the situation, his demeanor shifting from arrogance to a grudging acknowledgement of my resolve. He muttered a few half-hearted reassurances before retreating, his retreat punctuated by the soft thud of the garage door as it closed behind him. As I watched him leave, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me. The confrontation, while painful, had served its purpose. It was a declaration of my unwillingness to be undermined or manipulated, a reaffirmation of my own strength and integrity. The garage, with its tools and machinery, stood as a silent witness to a moment where I had faced down a challenge and emerged with my resolve intact. The path ahead remained fraught with difficulties, but I had taken a crucial step in reclaiming control over my life and asserting my place in the aftermath of the betrayal. The aftermath of the confrontation with John was both a reckoning and a release. As the echoes of our tense exchange faded, I found myself standing at a crossroads, faced with the undeniable reality of the situation. The intensity of the confrontation had not only marked a decisive end to the uncertainty, but also illuminated the path forward. The finality of our clash was a grim prelude to the inevitable, an acceptance that the marriage I had once cherished was beyond repair. In the days following, the weight of the confrontation settled heavily on me. The once familiar rhythms of daily life felt disrupted, as if every corner of our home now echoed with the ghosts of what had been. Jenny, too, seemed to be grappling with the consequences of her actions. The realization of her betrayal and the subsequent fallout hit her with a force that was both crushing and clarifying. Her attempts to justify or downplay her infidelity fell away, leaving a stark acknowledgement of the breach of trust that had driven us to this point. Jenny's initial resistance to the reality of our situation began to crumble. Our conversations, now tinged with the bitterness of regret and resignation, revealed a growing awareness on her part of the magnitude of her actions. The facade of defiance she had put up was slowly replaced by a more somber acceptance. It was clear that she was beginning to comprehend the full impact of her choices, not just on our marriage, but on the lives intertwined with it. As the discussions about the future of our marriage progressed, it became evident that neither of us was prepared to navigate the treacherous waters of reconciliation. The trust that had once been the bedrock of our relationship had been irrevocably shattered. Each conversation about the divorce was marked by a profound sense of loss and inevitability. The emotional and legal process of ending our marriage unfolded with a painful precision, each step a reminder of the distance that had grown between us. The decision to end the marriage was not one made lightly, but it was a necessary step towards closure. The divorce proceedings were a grueling process, a formal acknowledgement of the dissolution of a partnership that had spanned decades. As we navigated the legal complexities, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this point. The contrast between the vibrant life we had built together and the fractured remains of our relationship was stark. The garage, once a symbol of our shared achievements, now felt like a monument to the dreams and aspirations that had been upended. The finality of the divorce was a sobering moment, a realization that the life we had envisioned together was now a part of the past. The process of dividing assets, making arrangements for the future, and dealing with the emotional aftermath was a complex and taxing ordeal. Yet, amid the pain and difficulty, there was a sense of liberation, a recognition that the end of this chapter allowed for the possibility of new beginnings. Reflecting on the broken marriage, I was left with a deep sense of melancholy, but also a quiet resolve. The journey through betrayal and dissolution had tested my strength and resilience in ways I had never anticipated. The lessons learned from the experience were harsh but invaluable. I came to understand that the end of our marriage was not just about the loss of a partnership, but about the need for personal growth and healing. As I looked back on the years we had shared, I saw a tapestry woven with both joy and sorrow. The memories of our early days, filled with hope and ambition, contrasted sharply with the disillusionment that had followed. Yet, amid the reflections on what had been lost, there was also a recognition of the strength that had emerged from the experience. The end of the marriage marked the beginning of a new journey, one that would require healing, adaptation, and the courage to embrace the future with hope and determination. The final stages of the divorce were marked by a profound sense of closure, though it came with its own set of emotional challenges. The legal battles and the division of assets were not merely procedural. They were a stark reminder of the personal and emotional costs of the dissolution. Each document signed, each agreement reached, felt like another nail in the coffin of what had once been a vibrant and hopeful partnership. Jenny and I had to navigate the complexities of asset division, which was complicated by the shared life we had built. The discussions were often tense, filled with moments of bitterness and sorrow. The process was a stark reminder of the tangible aspects of our relationship, our home, our finances, and the remnants of a life we had envisioned together. The reality of separating these elements was a tangible manifestation of the emotional divide that had grown between us. Despite the tension and the pain, there were moments of unexpected clarity. Jenny's growing acceptance of the reality of our situation allowed for some level of civil discussion. We managed to reach agreements on the division of property and financial matters, though it was clear that the emotional wounds would take longer to heal. The formalities of the divorce were completed, but the process of untangling our lives and moving forward was far from over. The end of our marriage brought with it a profound sense of loss and reflection. I found myself revisiting the memories of our time together, examining the moments of joy and the gradual erosion of trust. The contrast between our early days, filled with dreams and optimism, and the later years, marked by betrayal and disappointment, was a painful but necessary part of the healing process. Amidst the reflection, there was a growing realization that healing and moving forward required more than just legal closure. It demanded an emotional and psychological reckoning. I began to focus on my own path forward, seeking ways to rebuild and redefine my life outside of the context of our marriage. This included focusing on personal growth and finding new sources of fulfillment. It was a journey that required resilience and introspection, as well as a willingness to embrace change. The process of adjusting to life post-divorce was both challenging and liberating. I took time to reconnect with friends and family, to rebuild relationships that had been strained by the turmoil of the past months. I also invested in new pursuits and interests, using the opportunity to explore aspects of myself that had been overshadowed by the demands of marriage and the fallout from its end. As I moved through this period of transition, I found solace in the knowledge that the end of the marriage was not a reflection of personal failure, but a necessary step towards personal growth and renewal. The lessons learned from the experience were hard-won, but they provided a foundation for moving forward with a renewed sense of purpose and strength. Ultimately, the end of the marriage was a complex and multifaceted experience. It was marked by legal battles, emotional turmoil, and a profound sense of loss. Yet, it also offered an opportunity for self-discovery and renewal. The journey through the dissolution of my marriage was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity to find hope and strength in the face of adversity. As I looked ahead, I was filled with a cautious optimism, ready to embrace the future with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of myself.